everybody? Enjoyed the meal? You've had a good evening, I hope? I'm just making general chat here because once everybody stops, I'll start properly. I don't want to interrupt too many conversations in front of people. It's a very relaxing evening. Cara, I guess she's gone now, she's stopped talking. Bride's mother. I've got my glasses on, so you're in a soft focus, so I can see what I'm supposed to say this evening, and save me from waffling, and then we can all get it over and done. Sorry, that was just a slide I put in, or a clip I put in to test the sound in the video. That's my wife and I, nearly 29 years ago now. She hasn't changed a bit. So I have to say to you, Da Jia Hao. Go back. Last time. So I'll be practically proven.
What does it mean? What does it mean?
Oh, somebody told me. I think it's, well, you asked that last time. It's a very good question. It's hello everybody or something like that, isn't it?
Yeah. Are you all well?
Are you all well? Yes. Yes, that's in Chinese. Just in case you were wondering, because I know it probably wasn't very good pronunciation. And in fact, Cara up on stage there, this is Cara, who's not even Chinese, was correcting my pronunciation. I was trying to say thank you. So, speaking of Cara, we'll get her to kick off the proceedings.
Hello, and welcome to the show. Here's what's coming up.
So we're delighted to be able to welcome so many from elsewhere here to Caithness and its rugged and windswept beauty. The rugged and windswept was me. But yeah, I mean, the weather is a little bit changeable, but I think we did relatively well for a wedding. I mean, the weather for today actually did come from a long-term forecast, and so they're not always the most accurate.
Hello, and welcome to the weather. Today, I am reporting from Thurso. It is very hot here, at about 23 degrees centigrade.
As you can see, we do get some incredible weather up here. In fact, it's like this most of the time. Don't tell everybody, it's a secret. We want to keep people away. That's actually on the west coast now. And climate change, well, if that progresses as people predict, then I've heard it said that Britain will become more like France, which you might believe if you've experienced some of the weather here over the last few days. Not quite that today. And global warming, it should concern us all, I think. We often feel, what on earth can we do about it personally? So then we as a family, we hit on a proactive solution. It was obvious, really. We all learn French. I'm very pleased that they didn't forecast that Britain would become more like China, because as you've discovered, it's probably going to take me several decades to actually master the language. So thanks for going to so many for today, and thanks have been done. I'm not going to do any more thanks. We've been thanked to death, other than the fact that I should reiterate one thank you to my lovely wife, who you've heard has done so much towards this, and I want to thank her for allowing me to contribute the bare minimum to the organisation of this event, and you're all probably far better off for it. Of course, I wish to welcome Stephen and Denise and their wider family into this union of ours, which was cemented by this tea ceremony, which is great. We've met them 2 or 3 times, as Denise said, during the courtship, and I know we're going to get on well. And any of the wider family that are here, or any of the wider family watching on the stream, or in the future on the recording, if you couldn't make it here, then you're most welcome. Come and visit us. Our home is your home whenever you want to come and see us. So the best man had the task of telling you about the groom and his premarital years, and Cara has the misfortune of me, the bride's father, telling you about what went into making this lovely, beautiful bride that you saw today and is still in our midst. So when did it all start, you ask? It started in Wick, not very far from here, in a very long labour, approximately 22 years ago now. It was a very tiring labour, exhausting, and I hear Jennifer found it quite difficult too. I became so tired, I was managing to sleep between the contractions, because I felt that catnapping actually, to conserve my strength, was the best way that I could support her in her time of need. And so let's have a look at the product of the labour. There we are. Cute. She was a relatively good baby in most ways. She tolerated her sister poking her. She tolerated baths as long as you didn't wet her hair. There's her first smile here, or thereabouts, one off. There we are. And her first steps as well here. And as soon as she could walk, she wanted to dance. There she's dancing. A loving parent at the back of a large hall of people in some event at some point, long distant past, that we can't dance in the Highlands, as you've discovered, without some Highland dancing. The good moves that she has on the dance floor are hereditary, as you can see. Cara has always been very sociable and chatty. And yes, I hear a lot of you say a little bit too chatty, perhaps. She wears everything on her sleeve, no dark, mysterious side, which is probably a blessing in a marriage, I would imagine. And it is all married people laughing. But her being sociable, thankfully never translated into any excessive teenage antics. We got off quite lightly with both of them in that respect. But she would equally be happy secluding herself in a corner. And when not playing with friends or cousins, she would have her head in a book. She just loved to read. She would just devour books. And she could read from such a young age that she probably can't remember not being able to read. I remember in the first few days at primary school, she was sent home with books with just pictures in them. And it was presumably so that the kids could just get used to the whole idea of books and things. And the stories came with an A4 accompanying sheet with lots of writing on for the parents to read the story as the child thumbed through the picture book. And Cara said to Jennifer with a very, very concerned tone, "I don't think the teacher knows I can read." So Jennifer got her to read the A4 parent sheet instead, and I tell you, she slept very well that night. And she's always been a very sensitive soul as well. At primary school, I had a regular, emotionally traumatic experience of forcing her out of the car each morning in order to get into school, as she got all tearful at the thought of a day in class. And also, she would appear in our bedroom, my side of the bed, at about 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, quite often, requiring some reassurance and cuddle. And we soon learned to keep a mattress by the side of the bed, and we'd pull it out so that she could sleep on it. Because Jennifer wouldn't allow it in our bed, you see, because Cara was a bit of a fidget and she would throw herself around and do funny things, which, so best of luck, Benji, on that one. We enjoy sleep deprivation. But I would have to sleep with my face hanging over the side of the bed, because Cara needed to see it as she was nodding off. But obviously we had to stop all that before she went off to university. Although she did have just cause for some of her anxiety in the first few years at school. We're now all aware of her musical prowess. She started at a very young age with this, and she found the music lessons at primary school excruciating, as children around her would randomly bash or blow instruments, and actually had the gall to think they were making music at the time. In fact, there's a lady in our church, she's an accomplished pianist, she's got perfect pitch and all that stuff, and she can play anything, and yet she found there was one person who could intimidate her. Yes, she admitted that little Cara, primary age Cara, sitting in front of her waiting for that very small mistake she would rarely make. She found it rather uncomfortable. So let's indulge in a whistle-stop tour of her music just now. In fact, this first clip here, Little Boy Blue, shall we call it, indulges her love of books and of singing. So we'll start with her singing. It's such a cute clip, in fact, that we had a visitor to our house, a young lady, and I'm pretty certain after seeing this clip she went home and had babies. Not immediately, I think it took about 9 months.
See if there's any more that
Little boy blue.
That Little Boy Blue, do you know that one?
Yeah.
You sing that one?
You sing it.
Daddy sing. Little boy blue, come blow your horn. The sheep in the meadow, the cows in the corn. Will you waken him? No, not I. For if I do, he sure do.
Isn't that cute? Equally cute, but full throttle here.
Do you want to sing out your thunder?
A thunder, I do wonder. I thank you. Pitter-patter beavers, I are you, so are you.
I think that the people who have the privilege of seeing that clip twice today will maybe have picked up on the. In fact, she wasn't really sure what she was singing as kids aren't. I just find it entertaining. She says pitter patter boobies. And we'll come back to that theme of not really knowing what people were talking about later on. And she would just merrily sing herself to sleep sometimes. If she's singing herself to sleep, that's just a video of the baby monitor. We were downstairs.
Jump for joy, hooray for heartbeat, girl and boy. La la la.
Of course, if you got a microphone, you're in trouble. And she can even sing in other languages, but I'm not aware that Chinese is yet one of them, but I'm sure that will come. Here she is singing in Scottish Gaelic.
He hoy lagan, mun kurst af ras na sore. He hoy lagan. Husband and a wife to have a happy home and a
you spotted as well some of our band in the previous clip as well, and looking at them later on. She would sing at festivals locally and events and things, and at St Andrews people here spot another face that's familiar. And of course, there's her sister Brianna. Both of them always very close. They've always had this strange kind of telepathy where from a very young age they would just start up singing the same tune without any kind of knowledge and discussion about it. And it would be in the same key, and then one would do the harmony, and how on earth did they know what they were doing? I don't know. Also a little nod to a flash of a wedding dress from somebody who's sitting over there on one of the clips. Yeah, I think you got that from, what's that, a couple of years ago now? And then there's just sheer indulgence, of course. Because there's just nothing quite like an 80s power ballad to unwind to, is there? When it comes to playing instruments, I always wanted Cara to play the accordion. So as you can see from that second clip there, she could actually do it, but this gem of instruments, all instruments, she just didn't want to pursue it really, unfortunately. So here are a few of the instruments she did have a go at, excluding the clarinet, which she actually got quite good on, but we just can't find any footage of it. She majored on two instruments, one of which was the violin.
These are the medals that we won at the 2008 Caithness Music Festival.
Yes, there were several children, a whole generation of children wishing that they would be ill at a certain time of year. They would mop up the local music festival's awards. So, but her main instrument, her main passion was the piano.
Oh, you clever.
performing to try and enhance her performance, I think. Watch her on the left here. It obviously worked because she actually won the piano competition at the National Music Festival a few years ago now. And as a proud father, I can tell you that and brag about it, which of course she wouldn't tell you, she's far too modest. Of course, many of you have known her just in recent years, and you think of her combining her singing with the piano in church, playing as she sings, as she leads worship, and so on. Something that both those in St Andrews and Thursday will be familiar with. She started young. Let's have a look at this.
Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. The Bible tells us to.
So we've had some great times playing music as a family over the years. And strangely, it was one of our pleasures during lockdown too, recording songs for our online services. And we were happy to have Benji join us and augment our band. And as we discovered earlier on, little did Cara know that she was learning music as a girl, but on the other side of the world, there was a little Benji learning music in parallel. The future will no doubt include both of them making much more sweet music together.
God, I look to you, I won't be overwhelmed. Give me vision.
That was them singing together in St Andrews, and I think you'll all agree that it was just absolutely, I don't know, tear-jerking is the only word I can think of in church today when we sang together. I mean, how rare is that to have a bride and groom sing a duet in the service? It was just amazing. And as you heard earlier, we've heard reference to the grade 8 or almost grade 8 skills of Benji, and he's now very pleased, as he said, to have acquired a grade 8 distinction by marriage. It's one way of doing it, I suppose. But I hope you married her for far more than that. So Cara she's always been a bit of a bright spark as well. She did well at school and so on, and she shows promise from a very young age.
Are you hiding in there? Oh, where's she gone? Where's Cara? Where can she be? Oh, there you are. Yes, you're hiding in there.
I think it's just the expression on the face. It's like, where's Cara gone? It's obvious. You adults are so stupid. I was behind the chair all the time. And then, for her 5th birthday, she got an encyclopedia. And she was off. She absorbed it like a sponge and regaled us with facts that she can still remember to today. Inspiring her interest in astrophysics, she loved the section on outer space. And I remember a year or so later, I tried to help her with I came up with a mnemonic for remembering the order of the planets out from the sun. And bless her, she tried to actually learn my 8 memoir, but the only way she could remember it was because she actually knew the order of the planets out from the sun. So it wasn't really required. But there we are. And of course, we would do bedtime reading as well, like most parents, but I very soon left that to Jennifer, because Cara would be peering over my shoulder at a very young age, saying, "It doesn't say that, Daddy." I had quite an adult approach to bedtime reading. So I then became a listener, and I snoozed my way through most of the Narnia series. But she could also be very profound as well. As a toddler, Cara, she would often need some moral support when she was on the toilet, as young children often do. At age 2, sitting on the toilet, and if there's a place to be profound, then I think you'll agree that's the place. She was thinking about what had been said in church. Yes, at that age she was paying attention to the sermon, perhaps more so than most of the adults who had been there, and she had heard how you should have Jesus in your heart, and how we should have Jesus in our heart. And you might think to a 2-year-old that would be a bit of a strange concept. And she looked at the Perspex shower cubicle, and she saw my reflection in the shower cubicle, as if I was standing inside it, and actually I was standing outside of it. And her young brain quickly made the connection, and she explained that this is how we can have Jesus in our hearts. And it was a very neat visual, I think, of how we should reflect the likeness of Christ. And so we had a 2-year-old there, in a sentence, explaining what it took the minister about 20 minutes to do. So here we are. Here she's saying grace here in a cute way. You can try and pick out the words for Grandma and Grandpa.
Do you want to say grace, Cara? Yeah?
Tack Lord, I love you, Dad, for Lord. Grandma säger Tack Lord, amen.
Different breed of Christians up here were so hardy. Straight into the sea with us. That's how it works. And that was Pastor Mark there that we met in church this morning when he was here on his last stint. Oh yes, let's come back to this now. It's so easy when you're young and you're learning new things that you mishear things and you get funny notions in your head. And it's very embarrassing when you're an adult, but it's very cute when you're young. This is one of our favourites. See, Cara, she misheard the name of the break from school in the autumn time. Yes, they were the October holidays.
Not over. Not over.
But definitely our favourite occurred as we read an entry in a journal the day after we'd been visiting Disneyland Paris for the day. And the ride of the day had been it was the carrots of the Caribbean. But while we're speaking of carrots, these were one of the few vegetables that our girls would actually snack on. Otherwise, like many children, Cara had issues with fussiness over food, particularly vegetables, but she dealt with it in quite a novel way. She developed hamster-style cheek pouches. You see, she would eat slowly and begrudgingly her food at dinner time, or at least she seemed to eat it, and then at bath time we discovered that she had been secluding pockets of food in her cheeks for, at least a couple of hours sometimes. And she was just getting on with her life, playing and drinking, things like that. And we have no idea what she planned to do with these reserves at the end of the night at bedtime. We don't recall finding any stash under her pillow. Well, there we are. We've heard reference to this already. Perhaps the most emotionally traumatic day of my life, up until that point at least anyway, was when I hugged Cara goodbye as she headed off to the plane to go off to Guinea in Africa. I was going to be very strong, just like a father should be, a tower of strength, but I just cried like a baby. We were so proud of taking this big step prior to university, to fly the nest, to discover that there's far more to the world than just this small, cosy corner that we live in Britain, and to help with missionary work while she was out there. The toilet didn't work, it didn't flush, the cockroaches were everywhere at night time, They needed an armed guard for security, and they needed to learn another language or two as well to get by. And it was all very challenging stuff. But as I've said to my girls at many junctures in their lives, these things are
Character building.
character building. Yes. Sounding like a broken record as usual. But it seems she received at least one marriage or two marriage proposals every day when she was out there. That seems to be the way of things, which, I mean, looking at her today, you can hardly blame her. But she was saving herself. She was saving herself for that special someone to come into her life. And apart from the friends that she made while she was out there, and they were here earlier to celebrate today, these friends for life that she's made now, she also discovered something else about herself, something new. Because the meat that was hanging in the African markets, it just didn't seem all that attractive to the Western eye or the Western palate. So she discovered a real passion for vegetables. And her cheek pouches, they regressed, her fussiness disappeared, and she learned to eat a whole variety of vegetable dishes. And on her return from 6 months in Africa, Jennifer, she collected her from the airport, and which we can spoil her, we'll offer her any dish she wants, you know, maybe some chicken she's been wanting for, some meat or whatever it might be. But she said, "Now, can I just have a plate of vegetables, please?" This broadening of her palate was obviously helped when she got to university, and it helped her launch into the Asian cuisine that she was inevitably going to come across. I think she quite enjoys this food from different parts of the world. She's cooked us some great dishes, actually, her and Benjamin together. So as I come to a close, I ought to offer some wise parental advice to this young couple starting out together in life. Most fathers listening will be aware of how a daughter can wrap you around their little finger. And for myself, a strong-willed, self-reliant, and decisive person is something that I still aspire to. It pains me to say that I reckon that a good start for their marriage is, in a certain way, to have Benji wrapped around Cara's finger. The ability to do this was actually something that both our girls perfected with this man here. Ooh, have I missed something? I have missed something. I'll come back to it. And this is my father, who died last year. Unfortunately, he was at Brianna's wedding, but he had this goal when he was diagnosed with cancer that he was going to hold his great-grandchildren, and he never made it. He didn't make it, but I know he took great solace and great peace in the fact that both of his grandchildren had found the man of their dreams, and that their future was assured. And he took great peace in that. I'm going to come back because I've skipped something. Oh, this was just to talk about her domestic skills.
Hi. Mummy, I'm doing cooking dance.
And these are eggs from a local farm, which are a lot more yellow than your average Tesco one.
And as I've said, Benji is a very good cook, he's very good in the kitchen, and together, when they come and visit, basically, we just sit up and we do nothing, don't we? It's great, actually. So, as I explained, at Brianna's wedding, our other daughter, as I explained at her wedding, for those that were there, I had been praying for years for two unknown men, two as yet unknown men, as yet known, and I was praying things like I wanted them to be mild-mannered, faithful men, family-orientated, God-loving, and just generally loving to their future wives. And I have to say I haven't been disappointed. They give me a tick in all the boxes. And we all know that this is down to the power of prayer and not to the regular lessons that we held on how to lure a husband. But it did take an awful lot of time for Cara to do her makeup as well. And such lessons, obviously, they included things like table etiquette, which I'm quite big on, aren't I, girls? And why not to burp in public, subjects like that. And at least on the first score, we had a little success. So back to my nugget of wise advice. There'll be ups and downs, there'll be good news and bad news.
You look like your mummy. Not that mummy ever gets in a mood like that, obviously.
But the critical things, they're all listed in the verse of the day, really, which here it is, for those who can read it, 1 Corinthians 13, and as sung so beautifully by them earlier in church, things like patience, keeping no record of wrongs, always forgiving quickly, and always keep talking, or at least, Cara, give him a break occasionally and let him say something. And Benji, even when you're pretty convinced that she isn't, remember that she is always right. And I've seen you two together for long enough now to know that you've probably already worked that one out, I think. And if you work on the basis that your sole purpose is to please her from now on, then her pleasure will become your pleasure. And that works in reverse as well, Cara, I would suggest. And my track record at pleasing Jennifer for nearly 29 years now in September has probably not been, it's maybe more like Benji's grade 8 than Cara's grade 8, let's put it that way. So believe me, if you miss the prime directive on occasions, you will know about it. Compatibility in the form of similar outlook, hopes, beliefs, hobbies, they all help, no doubt, in a relationship. But if I might bring music into it for one final time, in church today, in a duet, you were both singing separate tunes, you were singing different words, but the effect of harmony is that different parts somehow come together to become more than the sum of those parts. And I would say that's a pretty good analogy for marriage. You don't always need to be singing the same identical tune as long as you remain in harmony. And as Christians, we accept this mystery of the Holy Trinity, the three in one. And in marriage, you have to accept a new form of maths. 1 plus 1 still equals 1 now. It's a kind of binity, shall we say. You keep your individual identities, yet at the same time they are inseparable from your new identity as a couple. And contrary to what some people might say from this point, it's not all downhill. Oh, I think about Cara.
Excellent.
Yes, so you've both got a great adventure ahead of you. But this time with each other, rather than with a rugged Frenchman strapped to your lap. And so as parents, we nurture them, don't we? We teach them, we love them, and then one day we just have to let them go. And off they go, and I can't think of anyone that I would rather let my precious Cara go to than Benji. And you do have something very special together. And yeah, just please hang on to that. Treasure it. Treasure it. So Benji, please, will you look after my precious Cara. And just so that you get used to the way things will be from here on, we're going to give her the last word.
Make yourself at home. Thank you. Bye.
I think there might even be a bonus clip actually. I couldn't fit it in any train of thought.
She's like called a lamb.
Oh, you're brushing her, making her nice.
The 12th of March 2008.
It's like Andrew's not like
And Polly is lying on me.
Love your moments. Yeah, but she'll play like that.
Okay. Ooh, like licking my feet.
So I don't know what's coming up next, but as a master of ceremonies, I think we're more or less done. Perhaps Jennifer should come up and say something at this point.
Well, thank you all for coming, and I hope you've enjoyed the day. I know it's not been what we originally planned, but it's been really lovely to have all of you with us and celebrate this really special day for Benji and Cara and for us as families. We've already got to know Denise and Stephen really well, and we're just so delighted to be our families are joined together. So Benji and Cara will be leaving soon. And then, so if you want to mingle for the last short while, obviously mingling is outside. So we need to be out of here. Yeah, we need to be out of here for 11. That's the rules just now for COVID. But if you haven't signed the guest book, it'd be really good if you could sign that before you leave as well. And when you leave, Cara and Benji, will you come out here? We can say goodbye to you. You'll tell us when you're going. Okay. So thanks very much. And yeah, if you've got, when you leave your table, then maybe probably just take your stuff with you. You can shove it in your car and have a wee chat outside before we finish off. And enjoy the rest of your stay in Caithness if you don't normally live here. And we do really mean it. If you come back, please do come. Give us a call. If you don't have our number, then Stephen and Denise have our number if you're part of their side of the family. Come and stay with us anytime. Turn up at 11 o'clock at night even and we will let you in. Okay, so thank you very much.